everyone. Welcome to the another episode of Product Management Interview Experience. I am Sugad, a product manager working out of a big tech company. For the folks who are here for the first time, this is the channel where we talk to various product managers to understand about the entire interview experiences related to product management. What are the kind of questions being asked, how to answer them, and how to crack the interviews. And today we have a special guest from Oracle who has recently cracked the senior PM interview. So keep watching the video till end because we're gonna be talking a lot about the entire interview process at Oracle and what does it take to become a product manager there. So let's get started. Hello everyone, welcome to the another episode of Product Management Interview Experience. And today we have Pinaki Piyush who has recently cracked Oracle as a senior product manager. Welcome Pinaki to the channel.
Thank you so much, Sugad. Thank you for having me.
So Pinaki, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. So, as you all have already said, my name is Pinaki, and I'm currently working as a senior product manager for Oracle. I have several years of experience in the industry now, mostly into consulting, data analytics, and marketing within industries such as healthcare, telecommunication, FMCG, and a little bit of stint of media and entertainment as well. I have played quite a lot of roles during my career. I've been a data analyst, a business analyst, a PMO, marketing specialist. Basically, I have tried everything that seemed interesting to me at that point of time. So, yeah.
Hey, awesome. Great to hear about you, Pinaki. And, as you mentioned, you have a diverse background from marketing, consulting. I think this is the first time you would be working as a product manager, right? So I think we would also love to hear what are the different challenges you faced cracking the PM interview and your journey of breaking into product management.
Absolutely. Okay, so let me share my screen. Just take a moment. Yeah, let me know if you can see it.
Perfect.
Okay, so I started off my career as a consultant in Wipro. I was mostly into analytics, analytics consulting, solving data problems for customers, right? And then I moved into Deloitte, which is where I got introduced to the world of product, right? And there I was mostly doing marketing analytics, campaign management, a little bit of market research and go-to-M strategies, those kind of things, right? And that is where I decided, like, I found my calling. I thought that I should be moving into a product manager career path, right? Although it was a little bit challenging for me because I did not have the exact experience that a product manager would have. It was more of customer service industry, a little bit of consulting experience, right? So I started off, so I finally cracked a role with S&P Global Ratings as an associate product manager. However, this was more an engineering focused product management, or you could say technical product management, right? Which, is a little bit different to what a standard generalized product manager is. However, that was a very different experience for me. And although I did not have so much issues handling technical teams, right? Because being a consultant, I used to do that a lot, but that was not my calling, right? Technical product management was definitely not my calling, right? I realized that, and then I moved to PepsiCo, somewhere, like as a digital transformation manager. That was the official title, but it was more of internal product management. So basically, I would be developing products which would be used by internal customers or internal users, right? So there was no B2B or B2C sort of thing there, but it was almost a product manager role. So I could understand what the users want and build the product to fulfill those needs. And within that short time frame, I did a product management certification, from IIM Lucknow. It was more academically inclined, but I then started following up with a lot of content creators such as you. Your website really helped me a lot, and also a lot of free resources that I could find over the web. A lot of PM exercises and and a lot of case studies and those sort of thing. Right, started following up with people on LinkedIn where they post short snippets of a problem and how to solve it and a day-to-day life of product management and all those things, right? So that was very much helpful for me. And with all my experience and the skills that I've built over the years, that made me look for a product manager role, and I finally went up to Oracle.
Awesome. I think you mentioned couple of things, right? If I remember it correctly, you did PM certifications, number one. Number two, you started following um, many resources, materials in and related to PM. Number three is connecting to the right folks, doing networking. Number four is doing PM exercises, case studies, and all. So I think this all help you to gradually take a definitely you had some experience also prior to it, but this all activities help you to actually further learn about the PM. So how long did it take to you actually, in this entire learning phase? Was it in years, months?
You could say it's 1 year. It took
Wow.
almost 1.5 years. Yeah.
So I think there's no shortcut for, breaking into PM. It's more of a mindset which you have to keep developing over a span of year, and then finally you get into the particular role.
Exactly, exactly. One thing I missed, I also, read a lot of books, right? I think cracking the PM interview and Decode and Conquer were like on my top lists. So they also helped me a lot in understanding the PM role, the ecosystem, and how to prepare for it. So yeah.
Got it. So one question which I hear from most of the aspirants is about the resume, right? Especially when they don't have a PM designation and still have worked some or the other way. What was in your case, Pinaki? Uh, like, do you used to get calls with the designations like consultant, digital transformation manager, or you have to tweak your resume in certain way?
Yeah. So no, I did not get any calls when when I mentioned about the official designation or the official title, right? I had to tweak it a little bit, but not the focus was not on the title or the designation. It was more on the skills, right? So now a product manager, although have an official designation, there are some organizations or some industry who do not give a official title of a product manager. However, the work would be very much similar to a product manager role, right? Or for example, organizations within the FMCG industry, right? Nowadays, retail industry is also catching up. They have a product seat in the board, but the FMCG organization, they do not have official product manager role, right? And especially when we're talking about digital platforms and products, right? They do not have that kind of a role. So what I had to do was, make sure I highlight my skill sets and highlight my skill sets in the resume in such a way that it fulfills all the requirements of a product manager, although the designation may not say so. But within, if you have a like a clear, a clear written note of your skills, if you have shown what all things you have achieved using that skills, I think that is enough for enough to get a interview slot, like enough to get a seat at least in an interview.
I think very well said, Pinaki. This is what I heard from most of the people, and just to add to it, I think there are two type of resumes which can be prepared, right? One is designation-based resume, where you put your official designation of the company. And the other is a functional resume. Functional resume is more about the kind of work which you have did, the you have mentioned, right? And it's not faking it, right? Some people think that, hey, if I mention product management, but my designation is not product manager, am I faking in the resume? That's not, because designation can be anything. But if you prepare a functional based resume, I think you can still go ahead and put all the PM related activities, which you're doing in the organization. So, yeah, thanks for adding that and sharing your experience, Pinaki, to the wide audience.
No problem. Happy to help. And
Perfect.
I'm also available on LinkedIn. You can just drop me an email or anything. I would be happy to take a review of your resume and help and assist in every way I can.
Awesome. Awesome. Great to hear that, Pinaki. So let's keep moving and now go to the most important part. Would love to hear, entire interview experience at Oracle. Oracle is a great company. It has a good product culture. That what I've heard from most of the companies. It has been there for a very long time, and it's some company. It's a dream company for most of the folks, to break into Oracle. So please let us know your entire interview process of how you got that call from the recruiter to what were the different rounds, what were the questions being asked. Yeah.
Okay. So to start with, I did not get a call from the recruiter, right? So my approach to applying for jobs was a little different, right? I had some selected companies that I shortlisted, and I started applying in their job boards directly. Because Oracle being one of them, Salesforce was another one of them. So it was mostly targeting big techs because of the experience that I have been through, and because of my fundamental interest, to work with enterprise B2B products as well. So I applied for a position which was in the Oracle job board, right? And I got an email from the hiring manager. So the recruiter was not involved at all in the entire hiring process. The recruiter was someone who got involved towards the end of it during discussions, closure, and during the all the housekeeping activities at that point of time. But before that, it was all the hiring managers, the peers, and they only took the interview. They were my primary point of contact for everything. So, okay, I have some. Okay, let me share. Yeah. So, so this is a very interesting thing that I would like to share. Like, so there was total 5 rounds of interviews, but I would say there was a round zero. So the hiring manager reached out to me, sending an email that, hey, you know that you have applied and everything. So would you be available for a quick meeting or something? And parallelly, so one of the peers also reached out to me just to talk to me a little bit about what I'm doing, what I mean, just to find out the fitment, right? And it was from someone that I would work with, right, on a day-to-day basis, right? It was not the hiring manager or someone who would take the interview, right? It was just general someone from the team, right? And the interview was around 30 minutes, and it was mostly an informal meeting, like a icebreaker sort of a thing, right? Asking questions about like what do I do and my interest and my hobbies and everything. And they also gave a little bit of overview that what exactly is going to happen right now, right? How the interview processes at Oracle is, a little bit introduction to the team and what is the product that they are working on, and how my experience will help that product. So, uh, and I also asked them a lot of questions. So, who would I be interviewing with? Who are the people, who are the stakeholders, and all those things. So it was a really good one, 30-minute one. It boosted me up a little bit. It boosted my confidence, and I was ready to go for the first screening round, which was round one, right? This was like an hour long conversation, and I had to walk through my resume and my intent of applying to the job at Oracle, right? And there were mostly behavioral questions at the beginning, right? Like how do you define a failure or a success for your product, right? How do you define goals and metrics for your product? What's your favorite product and why? And how do you improve your product? And also they wanted to like while uh, walking them through my resume, right? There were a lot of questions around which would show my skill sets as a leader or as a team. I mean, as a teamwork builder, or you could say like as a communication expert like that. So they asked me questions about where was the time that you had problems or you had a conflict with the tech team or with some other team, right? And how did you manage to get over that? So those were the questions that were initially asked. And then the questions were around product strategy, right? And especially related to the industry right now. So the question was like, how do you think Oracle should position their product, and how do you think Oracle would win the current cloud war game that is going on, right? So they expected me to know a little bit about the industry that I am going in, right? To know what are the trends that is happening right now. What are They won't ask me specific questions about the market share and all, but if someone is going to into that industry, it is recommended to have that market share handy as well, so that you can just given them some numbers so that they could know that, and they could have that confidence that you have made your research properly. And yeah, so then I believe the next round of questions were around different metrics, right? Mostly because I had a product analytics experience. They asked me questions around how do you define a North Star metric in a particular product? What was the North Star metric in your product which you were managing before, right? And especially that was an internal product. So there were a lot of questions around how do you define a North Star for an internal product, right? What are the KPIs that you should be looking at? What are the KPIs that you should be improving? How did the user engagement goes, right? How do you find out, what exactly the customer needs, right? Do you interview customers? If yes, then what are the questions that you would ask your interviews and everything? And then finally, they gave me a big picture of what their product is, right? What are the vision of this product and the goal that they are trying to fulfill. This was all in the first round of interview.
Great. I think,
Okay, so, yeah.
yeah, no, I was just saying it's more pure, it's pure 360-degree screening which you have done, end-to-end product skills, behavioral, conflict management. So yeah, that's a kind of first round which happens with the hiring manager, where they try to evaluate in all the parameters.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, so that was all parameters. And that was the hiring manager. So he
Yeah.
had to ask a little bit of everything. So I believe that's why it was more like a generalized interview, right? And then from round two onwards, it was more, it was more specific questions or specific problems that were given to me. The second round was a case study, right? And it happened with a product management director. Um, and the case study was they gave me a couple of scenarios within the current enterprise industry right now. And the scenarios could be anything like you could say AI/ML, or you could say collaboration, or there were like a couple of those scenarios, right? And what I mean, what they were expecting me to build was how do I, you know, uh, improve the existing product based on those scenarios, right? And how do I fit those features within the PRD, right? So basically, they expected me to build a PRD. I took it back. It took me some time, like another like 1 2 days. I delivered it in 2 days, where I gave them a proper problem statement, right? And problem statement, like, and the solutions that we are proposing, right? And we started with the product vision. How do we build the MVP? How do you build a roadmap on the MVP phase one, phase two, like that, right? And then finally, how do we take it to market, right? There is no right or wrong, um, right or wrong answer for this, right? I think the expectation was to understand how do I structure the problem and how do I go about in solving them, right? So this was mostly their expectation, and the presentation was around 15 minutes, and there was another round of questions based on that presentation, which took another 15 minutes. So it was a 30 minutes round of interview.
Got it. Great.
Okay, so moving ahead, then there was round three. Round three was with the principal product manager, and and it is also a mix of generalized questions, but mostly execution focused, right? So they gave me a scenario and they said that your product does this, that maybe, I mean, that was in a fintech industry, and they asked me questions like, how do you solve for increasing fraudulent activities within the product, right? how do you how do you approach it, right? And then the questions were about how do you measure success. It was mostly the same which was asked by the hiring manager in the first round of interview, but a little bit in depth, right? They wanted to know about exactly what approaches are you taking, and uh, what is the intent behind those approach, right? How do you reach at that particular situation and everything, right? Then the question about how do you solve for decreasing daily active users, how do you handle trade-offs, those kind of execution-based questions, right? And then there was a little bit about prioritization, right? The, the questions were around do you would you want to build a feature where you have a major bug, in the product, right? And what are your approach, right? What do you want to do with that, right? And there were some frameworks also. Framework we discussed about some frameworks as well, right? Uh, so there may be a lot of frameworks, for prioritization, right? Moscow, Rice, and everything. But what do they expect is the fundamental framework that you generally use for basic situations, right? It could be like a need versus effort framework, right? The very basic framework that you use to prioritize, I would recommend to use that, because the scenarios that they would be giving would be very normal. I mean, very nominal. It won't have a lot of things so that you can build a Moscow out of it, but it would be very similar. So come up with similar frameworks and how do you do it. Second, I mean, the last was like around roadmaps, right? Uh, what are, like, let's say if there are a lot of important features, and what do you want to implement first, okay? And what is the intent behind that, or why do you want to do that? So those were the questions that was asked, and they expected me to um, not know exactly what I'm referring to, but they just wanted me to give the fundamental layers, like the answers in a very fundamental layer, right? It could be it could be in a way, in a very simplistic manner, right? And you say, they say that first principles, right? So they wanted me to follow the first principles and give them the answers on those lines. So yeah.
Perfect. And can you also share something about the timelines here, Pinaki? Like, uh, two questions which comes to my mind right now. Are all these rounds elimination, right? Or where? Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, so all of these rounds were elimination round.
Okay, got it. And how was the timeline? Is it within a week, or you have ample amount of time to prepare and proceed?
So the total time was around 1.5 months.
Oh, okay.
From like from the first call until the confirmation, not the offers
Got
and
it.
everything. It took another couple of weeks, but
Mm-hmm.
until the confirmation, it was around 1.5 months. And every interview was, I mean, they were pretty much fast with the interview process, right? Um, it was like a week apart. Uh, and sometimes I think I had round two and round one in the same week,
Okay,
but round took around, I think, 1.5 weeks after,
got
and
it.
then round four another week, like that.
Perfect. Yeah, I think interesting. Let's keep proceeding to the final few rounds.
Yeah. So then there was round four, which was, I wouldn't call it a technical round, but it was with the engineering manager, right? And the expectations from this round was not any technical stuff, right? But they wanted to understand how do I work with the engineering team, right? So generally they ask questions about my resume and a lot of behavioral questions like how do you build consensus when there are a lot of people disagreeing to what you want to, like what you want to build, right? So how do you build consensus in those cases, or how do you handle that disagreement within the team? Then there was one questions about how do you keep the engineering team in loop, on changing priorities, customer needs, on what's happening within the product organization, right? How do you keep them in loop, right? How can they be involved in what you are doing, right? And I believe that is very, very, very important, right? Because generally we say that, right, involving the engineering team, takes a lot of trouble, right? But we do have to involve them because they are the ones who are much closer to the technology or to the product, right? So it will, they wanted to understand like how do I deal with such situations, right? what are the strategies that I use, which helps the engineering team to know more about the customer and know more about the strategy that we are putting through. Then there were a couple of questions about, let's say the team is understaffed and there are like very unrealistic expectations right from the top leadership, right? How do you defend the team, and how do you build what is absolutely required at that point of time, and how do you manage with that trade-offs? So yeah, this was mostly inclined towards like stakeholder management, team management. But yeah, their expectation was to know how do I handle those situations. And there was a couple of questions around how there's a lot of firefighting that a product manager has to do, right? So they wanted to hear my experience about firefighting, which I did back in other organization, and what is the approach that I will take here at Oracle, which is a very big organization with a lot of stakeholders and a lot of layer of approvals, right? So how do I manage to put out certain fires and deliver the product right on time? And then finally, there were a little bit of technical questions. They wanted to talk to me about API versus SDK, like what are the general differences, what are the cloud capabilities that I know of, and what are the new cloud capabilities that are coming. But this is very much optional, right? They asked me the questions like in such a way that if I do not know the answer, then I did not have to answer those questions, right? So this was very much optional, but yeah, during the discussion, because it would be a B2B tech product, right? So they wanted me to answer those questions as well. And this was divided into two parts, right? One meeting I had with a senior leader of engineering, right? And another was the engineering manager of the product that I would be joining. So there were two rounds of technical interviews, but this was just one day apart.
So technically, 4 and 5 were
Four
covered
and
here in
five.
this.
Yes. So
Got it. Got it. Makes sense.
but the questions were similar, so I kind of clubbed it into one.
Makes sense. Yeah. So yeah, perfect.
And then the round five, which is the last round, right? It was with the hiring manager again, where like this round was mostly about setting expectations to understand what my goals are, right? And to talk to me about the next steps, right? They wanted to know, my intent on of joining their organization, right? How interested I am, right? Did I find the role and the product and the people interesting or not, right? So this was more about those questions, and it took me like I think an hour. We discussed about a lot of things within an hour. They also showed me a couple of the ways of working around Oracle, right? How do you work? What are the tools that we use, right? And what exactly to do before I join Oracle, right? How do I make myself a little bit prepared, right? Prior to joining Oracle, right? And then from round five onwards, it was the recruiter who took over, right? And did all the housekeeping works, took my documents, gave me an offer, and all those things.
Hey, awesome. Pinaki, congratulations again on cracking the Oracle interview and kudos to you. This has been a really good interview, I think, structure, the kind of questions which has been asked, the level they are trying to judge. And, thank you again for being a part of the channel and sharing it to the wider audience. Before we wind up the video, do you have any other suggestions, thoughts, which you want to share to the aspirants or people who are looking to get into Oracle?
Yes, sure. So I think what I followed here was to focus on the fundamentals, right? Even though I am not very much accustomed to the product that they are currently building, right? But what they expect a PM to do is the ability to learn anything that comes in the way, right? So I would recommend everyone to start with the basics first, and from the very beginning make sure to give your intent, right? To show them that you are interested in this position, you are reading about the technology or the industry that this product is, right? Make sure that you have a cover letter while applying for the job. It is very much important, right? Yeah, I could say ask questions. Yes, ask a lot of questions, right? So if they take 1 hour for interview, make sure that you ask questions for the next 15 minutes, right? Because the more you ask questions, that would show your curiosity and your interest in joining their organization, and that is what is needed, right? If you have the right attitude, if if you're okay to take on that challenge and you let them know about it, then I believe everything else would be secondary. It's first the intent and the interest of joining.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Pinaki, again for sharing your valuable insights. And folks who are watching this video, if you have any questions related to Oracle, their interview process, and getting into it, feel free to reach out to Pinaki in LinkedIn. He would be more than happy to willing to extend the help. And others, everyone, please stay healthy and like, share, and subscribe this channel so that it can reach out to the more audience.